Okay, so we're going to keep reading My Brother Martin. You may go ahead and open up to the page where your guided practice is. What was we've figured out one clue to what the author's purpose was. What is the one clue that we figured out from the first few pages about the author's purpose? Lena.
The author shows us that ML was a normal fun loving.
The author shows us that ML, who's ML again? Zari.
Martin Luther King Jr.
Martin Luther King Jr. So the author shows us that ML was a normal, fun-loving kid. We know we've been getting a lot of facts. We haven't really seen anything trying to get us to believe something. Or maybe we have. Maybe the author's trying to persuade us that Martin Luther King Jr. was a normal person. Maybe. Or maybe they're just telling us a fun story about Martin Luther King's childhood to entertain us. But we're not sure yet. We don't have enough information. Okay. So we're going to reread the last paragraph we read yesterday because I had started to talk about it, but then Coach Jay got here because I want to talk about that paragraph. So, Lena, go ahead and read loudly the paragraph that starts Atlanta, Georgia. Loud and slow.
Atlanta, Georgia, the city in which we were growing up, had those laws. Because of those laws, my family rarely went to the picture shows or visited Great Park with...
Not Great Park, but...
Giant Park.
Grant Park. Go slow.
Grant Park with its famous...
Now that is a tough one. But I want you to try it. That first C is soft, like the way you're saying it. The second C is hard. And that O is long. So try it. I didn't hear you, so try it. And then I'll help you. Cyclorama.
Cyclorama. In fact, to this very day, I don't recall ever seeing my father on a streetcar. Because of those laws and the identity.
So cover up IN and go slow. Read every letter. What is that word?
Identity.
Not dentity. Cover up everything but DIG. So use your fingers and cover up everything but DIG. And what is that? Dig. Cover up everything but NI. NI. I. N. And then TY. T. So we already know. Dig. N. T.
Indignity.
And then good. So then you added this prefix IN, indignity is what word, Lena?
Indignity.
Indignity. Go ahead and read that sentence again, the because of those laws.
Because of those laws and the identity.
Nope. We're going too fast.
Indignity.
There you go.
Indignity that went with them. Daddy
Let's look at it. That's okay. I like when we have to do this because it helps if everybody else is listening, it helps them too. So we're gonna put a syllable. Pre. Is there anything that lets us know that that would be long E? Like is there an extra E or an I or an A? So would it be long E? So what would it be? It wouldn't be feared, it would be,
E.
is it a long E? E is long E sound. There's nothing to show long E, so that means it has to be short E. You're still saying long E. Feared is long E, but we have to say short E, which is F, F, F. Put an F with it.
F.
Well, does F say F? Do any consonants say their own names? It's like D yesterday. Does D say D? It says D. So what does F say? It says F. So, furred. You're still putting a long E. Furred. Because we know fared. So there we have
Preferred.
fared. But what does that sound like that we know is a word? Pre-fared isn't a word. But what does it sound like that we know is a word? Fair, but then that would be ignoring all this and this. Pre-fared, is that a word? Pre-fared. But what is a word that's very close? Preferred. So what is that word?
Preferred.
Okay. So start at the comma.
And the
Indignity.
indignity that went with the Daddy preferred keeping MLAD and me close to home where we be protected.
Okay, so we started talking about this yesterday. In a biography, the author is usually going to use information about the time period that subject of the biography lived. So here we're hearing about a lot of the laws in Atlanta back in this time when Martin Luther King was growing up in that area. How did these laws affect ML and his family? Please stop playing with that. Otherwise, I'll take it, which means every time I call your name, you're not ready, you get a consequence, even though it's because I've taken it. Doesn't matter. How did those laws affect ML and his family? Aaron.
They couldn't go many places so they could be protected.
They couldn't go many places because they knew if they went there, bad things might happen. So they avoided a lot of things, a lot of fun things, like going to the park and going to the cyclorama, which I don't really know what it is, but I can imagine it's maybe somewhere where you like ride bicycles or something. And they avoided going into Atlanta. Think about why, if you live out in the suburbs, Cullen and Zari, you come to the city for things. Usually for fun things, like going to the movies or going shopping or going to take a walk along the river. Going out to eat at a nice restaurant. But could ML and his family do that? Did they feel comfortable doing it? I mean, they were allowed some of it. But they didn't feel comfortable doing it. So it affected just their regular old lives. Why do you think the author is telling us these things? Why do you think the author is telling us about these laws so that we can be thinking about what it felt like? Why do you think that's happening? Zari.
Because, like, maybe some of us weren't born back in the olden days, so we didn't know how it was like.
Okay. We didn't know what it was like, so she wants us to know what it's like. Why does she want us to know what it was like for ML growing up back in that time? Ethan? It's part of history. Good. Why else? Zadie?
Maybe because the author's purpose is to inform.
Okay, so how would that help the author to inform us?
Because it's giving us information about his childhood and the things he did in his childhood.
Okay. Anybody else have another answer? Those are good answers so far. Victoria?
Because maybe the author is trying to tell us this because we couldn't, because they experienced it and we didn't.
Okay, that's what Zari said. So if you're listening, You would know. Zari didn't say those exact same words, but it meant the same thing as what she said. Smith?
I think she does this so that as we continue on in the story, we can get the feel as if we were really there.
Okay.
And as if it was really happening to us.
Okay. Okay. Let's keep going. Mason, read next. Loud and slow so we can all hear you.
We live in a neighborhood in Atlanta that's not called Street.
Think about AU, especially, we just had that on our spelling list. AU sometimes says aw. Very good. Auburn, very good. See, that's why those spelling lists help, because they tell you, okay, if you hear aw in a word, it might be AU. Or if you see AU in a word, we know sometimes it says aw. So correct.
It was named for Auburn Avenue, the street that ran in front of our house. On our side of the street stood two-story frame houses, similar to the one we lived in. Across it,
We have OU, which in our spelling list usually meant, what did it sound like? Ow. Oh, good, Mason. I can tell you're really focusing on spelling. So, crouched. Good. So start that sentence again just because it just started.
across it crouched a line of one-story little houses in the store owned by a white family.
Okay, thank you, Mason. Read next. Ethan, loud and slow.
When we were young, all the children along
Remember, AU says, let's see, OU will say ow a lot, but AU will say ah a lot. So what is that word?
Auburn Avenue. Play together even the two boys whose parents are in the school.
Good. Okay. Read next. Victoria. Loud. Go slow.
And since our house was a favorite gathering place, those boys played with us in our backyard and ran with ML and AD to the firehouse on the corner where they watched the engines and fire.
Go ahead. The next one is only one sentence, so go ahead and read it.
The thought of not playing
Oop, how is that not written?
thought of not playing with those kids because they were different, because they were white and we were black, never entered our minds.
So think about what Victoria just read. Those two paragraphs on page 315. Which one is not a paragraph? One is just a long sentence. Those two blocks of text on page 315. Do you think that ML and his brother and sister understood that the laws kept black people separate in Atlanta? Do you think they understood this at this point in the story? Ethan? Not really. Why do you think they didn't understand this? Think about what happened a little earlier in the story. That would mean that they would have no chance. Well, it would never enter their minds, okay? Why would it never enter their minds? Think about what happened on the page before. Why would they not know that this was a thing? The page 314. Why would they not understand that this was a thing where there were laws that kept black people separate? Zari.
Because they don't go to the store.
They don't go into Atlanta to these places. Their dad protects them. Their dad keeps them from seeing these injustices, right? So how would they know if their dad keeps them away from it? They wouldn't. So why do you think that the author makes sure to tell us that the children, the kids in the neighborhood, never thought about the color of their friend's skin? Because remember, there was the white family who owned the store, and all the kids would play together. The white kids, the black kids, they'd all play together. Why do you think the author is making sure to point that out, that they didn't even really care about each other's skin color? Victoria.
Because it doesn't matter what color you are.
Okay, yes, it doesn't matter what color they are. How do we know that? How do we find that out? Are we born knowing that? Are we born knowing anything? No. So how do we find out that it doesn't matter what skin color you are, you're all friends? How do you find that out? Zari. Oh, I just called on you. Sorry. Can I call on somebody else? Okay, thank you. Smith.
Because it just doesn't matter what you look like. We're all the same.
So why do you start to think that? Why do some people start to think that? Why do they start to think that the skin color you are does matter and you should not be treated the same? Why do people start to think that? Zadie.
Maybe because it benefits for them.
Okay. Kingston?
Maybe because they think they're better than everybody. Maybe because they think they're better than everybody else.
But if nobody tells you that or makes you think that, then do you think that? Where do you learn? Where do you learn things? Who are your first teachers? Are they your actual teachers? Who are your very first teachers? Lena?
Your parents.
Your parents. So do you think that their parents taught them to judge others? Do you think they had learned from their parents to judge others? No. Because if they had, what would their parents have done? What would their parents have done to teach them to judge others? Mason?
Make fun of people.
They could have made fun of people in front of them. Colin?
I was going to say the same thing as Mason.
Okay, think about this story. What could the parents have done that would have taught them that people are not equal? Zadie?
Maybe they would have said you can't play with others.
They would have stopped them from playing together. Ethan, do you have something else? They would have even said, not only don't play with each other, but you need to stay away from them. But does that sound like it's happening? No. Okay, go ahead and turn the page. Colin, read next, loud and slow.
Well, one day, ML and AD went to get their playmates from across the street just as they had done 100 times before. But they came home alone. The boys had told my brother that they could not play together anymore because AD and ML were...
That's a long E sound. And then the E is silent at the end.
Negroes.
There you go. So what happened? Why did this happen? Why did this happen, Kingston? But why had it not happened before? Why did this start happening now? Think about the answer to the last question I asked. They didn't know before that, but now they do. How'd they find out? Lena?
Probably because their parents told them.
Their parents said something. Their parents said something. Read the next paragraph. Zari.
And that was it. Shortly afterward, the family sold the store and moved away. We never saw or heard from them again.
So they were really good friends. They had fun together. But then, because some people just can't see that we're all equal, they now learned this new information. And do you think they're ever going to think the same way about people with different skin colors again? Probably not. Because when you're a kid and you learn something, it's really hard to unlearn it, isn't it? It's really hard to unlearn it. If your parents feel a certain way about someone, even if you don't know that person, you start to feel that way about that person, don't you? Because you trust your parents to teach you the right things or to feel the right things. But do they always? Do they always think the right way and feel the right things? No, especially not in Martin Luther King's time. So as I'm reading, I know that the author of this biography, which is who? Who is the author of this biography? Zadie?
MLK's
Martin Luther King Jr.'s sister. Martin's sister. So the author is choosing which parts of ML's life to include. So before this point, all of her, using her own memories, the author has told us about ML's normal, happy childhood. What do you think her purpose in telling us about his normal, happy childhood was? What do you think her purpose was? Was it to entertain, to inform, or to persuade? What do you think? Carla?
To inform us and let us know how it felt in their time.
So, to inform us about how ML was just a normal kid. The story also, did it persuade us of anything? What else did it do? Smith?
It's entertaining us with different things.
It's entertaining us. It's telling us funny stories about ML's childhood. So it's informing us of his childhood, but it's also entertaining us. It was telling us these funny things that happened. But now it changed. Was this a very funny page? Was it funny at all? It was sad. It was painful. How do you think ML and AD felt? These were probably their closest friends. They lived right across the street from each other. How do you think they felt, Zadie?
I think they felt devastated.
They might have felt devastated. Good word. They might have felt devastated. These were their best friends, their closest friends. Literally. They were right across the street. And now they said they can't play together. And then they move away and they never hear from them again. So the author's probably choosing to tell us about this painful moment because this is the first time that ML is starting to see the prejudice and the injustice. Because up until now, his father was able to protect him by just not bringing him to Atlanta, into the city. But now it's right across the street. So he didn't even know that this kind of thing, this racism, existed. But now here's his first experience. Why do you think the author chose to tell us about ML's first experience with injustice and racism? Zari.
So we could actually feel how he felt and not feel like, this isn't really anything. So she was telling us how he felt and everything.
Okay. Why do you think she wants us to know how he felt? Why do you think she wants us to know how he felt? Zadie?
Because that may have led to him doing the marches.
Very good. Because if he had never experienced what he's experiencing now, would he have ever become the man we know of him as today? No. So this is probably the first moment where it started to click in his head. This isn't right. This isn't how it should be. Do you think that's the only time he experienced this, or do you think we're going to read about more times where he experienced the injustice and the racism? Class. Bless you. Probably read about more.
More time.
So, our next clue is that the author tells us ML saw prejudice as a child. Because think of if you have a terrible childhood memory. Some of you may have, some of you may not. We won't go into it. We don't have to talk about it if you do have one, but it's going to affect the rest of your life. You're probably never going to forget it. Do you think ML, Martin Luther King Jr., is ever going to forget this? His first moment of seeing this happen? Probably not. Okay. Kingston, read next, loud and slow. Use your finger to follow along.
Looking back, I realized that it was only a matter of time before the generations of cruelty and injustice that Daddy and Mother Dear and Mama and Ida had been children from finally broke through.
Louder.
But back then, it was a crushing blow that seemed to come out of nowhere.
Okay. So now they're telling us, in other words, Zadie told us they were devastated. Now we know exactly how they felt. Were they devastated? A crushing blow that comes out of nowhere can devastate you. That means it's more than just sad. It's like crying your eyes out for hours. Sad. Smith, read next.
Why do white people treat colored people so mean? ML asked Mother Dear afterward. And with me and ML and AD standing in front of her trying our best to understand, Mother Dear gave us the reason behind it all.
So now we see the author is sharing all of these thoughts, definitely to tell us why this all became important to ML. If this stuff hadn't happened, if he had never experienced it, would everything he did have been important to him? No. But now we're starting to see why this was so important to him, because his childhood friends said, I can't play with you anymore. Let's keep reading. Aaron, read next, loud and slow.
Her words explained the streetcars our family avoided. And
Louder.
And the whites only sign that kept us of the
Not of.
off the elevator at City Hall.
Louder.
Her words told why there were parks and museums that black people could not visit, and why some restaurants refused to serve us, why hotels wouldn't give us rooms, and why theaters would only allow us to watch the picture shows from the balcony.
So, reading this, ML didn't know why these things that his dad was doing were happening. He didn't know why they didn't go to the park. He didn't know why they didn't go to the movies. He didn't know why they didn't go on the streetcars. But now he knows why. All his mom had to do was say one thing. And now he knows why all of that happened. Do you think that he cared before that they didn't do these things? Probably not. He didn't really even think about it. He's just like, oh, we don't do that. But do you think he cares now? Focus. Don't just give me the answer you think I want. Think about it. Probably. Carla, keep reading.
But her words also gave us hope.
Carla, can you move the microphone a little closer to your mouth?
It's not on the microphone. It's
Okay.
on the camera.
Okay, keep going.
Let me see if it's on.
Well, that's okay, Carla. Just keep going. Just keep going, but make sure you're being real loud, okay?
Okay. She answers sweetly because they just don't understand that everyone is the same, but someday it will be better.
Keep going.
And my brother ML looked up into our mother's face and said the word I remember to this day. He said to Mother Dear, one day I am going to turn this world upside down.
Pause. So what did the author just show? What did the author just tell us in your own words? What did the author just tell us? Aaron.
She told us that ML was going to make everything better.
So she's sharing this with us because she wants us to know the moment that Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. decided this can't be how it is. So was he a grown-up when he made this decision? He wasn't. He was just a kid whose friends couldn't play with him anymore, who couldn't act like a normal kid and go to the movie theaters and ride the streetcars. That's like if we lived in a big city and rode the bus or the subway. Everybody does it in big cities. But Atlanta had streetcars. They couldn't go to parks. They couldn't use certain water fountains. And now he's finally realizing this. And he says, as a child, as a kid, this isn't fair. This is unfair. This can't happen. I am going to be the one to change it. So now, our next clue. The author tells us the moment Martin decided to take action. And again, was he a kid? Was he a grown-up when he made this decision? No, he was a kid. So can kids do big things? Mm-hmm. They can. Would he react this way if he didn't have strong feelings about what was happening? Would he react this way if he did not have strong feelings about what was happening in the world? Zari.
No.
No. How might he react, Zari?
He would have been just like, who cares? It won't matter.
Mm-hmm. Good. It won't matter. He might care about it, but he might think, no matter what I do, it won't matter. If he had feelings that were not so strong, but his strong feelings, or his reaction shows that he has strong feelings about the injustices that his mother's telling him about. I lost my train of thought. It's showing us that he has strong feelings about the injustices his mother is telling us about. His strong feelings led him to decide to take action. He decides he's going to turn the world upside down because he has strong feelings. If he had weak feelings or just like, well, that's not fair, but I can't do anything about it, we might not be where we are today. Martin Luther King Jr. was a big part of that. So it's good that he had these strong feelings because they led to a good place. So when you have strong feelings about something, should you automatically say, calm down? Not automatically. You need to think about those strong feelings first and decide, are they worth feeling strongly about? Or are they not? If they're worth feeling strongly about, should you stop yourself from having those feelings? No. Okay, read next. Zadie.
In the coming years, there would be other reminders of the cruel system called segregation. That
Now, OUGH usually says a certain, cover up the S. Have you seen that word before? Ought. So add S to the beginning and it becomes sought. Good. That means looked for.
that sought
Bless
to
you.
keep black people down. But it was Daddy who showed Emma and AD and me how to speak out against hatred and
That O at the end sounds like short U. Bigotry.
To speak out against hatred and bigotry and stand up for what's right.
So did his strong feelings go away? And then he started to think, oh, it won't matter. No, he kept those strong feelings because when we feel strong feelings for good reasons, we don't want them to go away. We want to use them. Zari, read next.
Daddy was right. Daddy was the minister at Ebenezer Baptist Church. And after losing our playmates, we, ML, AD, and I heard our father speak from his pulpit. His words held new meanings.
Keep going, Zari.
And Daddy practiced what he preached. He always stood up for himself when confronted with hatred and bigotry.
There you go.
And each day he shared his encounters at the dinner table.
Thank you, Zari. Read next, Smith.
When a shoe salesman told Daddy and NL that he'd only serve them in the back of the store because they were black, Daddy took ML somewhere else to buy new shoes.
Go ahead and read the next paragraph too, Smith.
Another time, a police officer pulled Daddy over and called him boy. Daddy pointed to NL sitting next to him in the car and said, "This is a boy. I am a man, and until you call me one, I will not listen to you."
So, when Martin was a little kid, is this how his dad acted? What did his dad do when Martin was a little kid? Aaron,
he stood up and law.
is that what we read about when Martin was real little? Think about what we read about. When Martin was real little, what did his dad do? Michaela.
He really wanted to protect him and keep him away from the outside world.
Good. He protected his children, kept them away from the outside world. Just didn't go to the places where they knew that they would experience prejudice and bigotry, so that Martin and his siblings didn't have to see this. But now, something has changed. Is his father still trying to protect them by shielding them? Are you listening to the whole thing? Is his father still trying to protect his siblings, and Martin and his siblings, by shielding them, by keeping them away from these situations? Zari.
No.
No. What is he doing now?
Now he's not staying quiet. He's actually sticking up for himself and his family.
Very good. He's not staying quiet anymore. He's not trying to hide these things from his kids anymore. He's sticking up for them. Why do you think he's not trying to hide this from his family anymore? Smith, why is he not hiding this from his family anymore, Smith?
I think he's doing that so that one day, once everyone gets older, they can stand up for themselves and they know what to be prepared for in the future.
Very good. He's now trying to show them this is what is going to happen to you in the future when you get older. I am showing you how I deal with it, how I stand up for myself and for you, so that maybe you can do the same thing when you get older. Very good. So he's not only helping them to actually now be aware of what's going on, but he's also trying to teach them how to respond and how to react and how to stand up for themselves. He used to try to shield them, but do you think that would have helped them when they got older? If they never knew what was happening, would they be able to deal with it when they were older and their dad couldn't hide it from them anymore? No. So now he's realized, if I show them what's happening and I show them how to stand up for themselves, then they'll be able to do it when it comes time. Smith, go ahead and read that very last sentence.
These stories were as nourishing as the food that was set before us.
Good. Okay, Aaron, read next.
Years would pass and many new lessons would be learned. There would be numerous speeches and marches and prizes. But my brother never forgot the example of our father or the promise he had made to our mother. One day,
No, not one day.
on the day his friends turned him away.
So, we now know what Martin's childhood was like. Was it all bad? Was it all odd and different from your own childhoods? Not all of it. But then things happened when he got a little older. He was still a kid, and it changed. How does this biography of Dr. King show that his childhood experiences led him to stand up for what is right? How did this biography of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. show that his childhood experiences, what happened to him in his childhood, led him to stand up for what is right? Nobody? Sorry?
Like you said, if something bad happens when we're little, it's not like it's gonna go away like that. It's just gonna stick with you, so you need to stick up or whatever you need to do.
Okay. So I'm going to ask my question again because that doesn't quite answer it. How does this biography that we've read all but the last sentence or two, how does this biography show how Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s childhood experiences led him to stand up for what is right? Zadie.
Because after that experience he had with his friends,
What experience he had with his friends?
where they said he couldn't play with him because he was a different color, he thought that wasn't fair.
Okay.
And so he decided he was going to make a difference and stand up for what's right.
So he decided, so he had this experience where his friends told him, I can't play with you because we're not the same color. And he decided in that moment that that wasn't right and he wanted to change it. Well, what else happened to help him or lead him to know how to stand up for what was right? That's what started, bless you, that's what started his journey to activism. But what else led to that? Smith.
When his father took him around to show him what life was like outside of the house.
So his father showing him the things he'd been missing his whole childhood. Not only showing him that, but showing him what else? What else did his father show him? Lena.
Bravery.
Bravery. How to stand up for himself. What did his mother do? Ethan? Can't hear you. Let's go back. We didn't look enough at this, I realize now. Let's go back and look at page 318 and look at that first sentence after the first paragraph. So find the first paragraph and look at the sentence that comes next. What did his mother do to help him and lead him on his journey of activism? Carla.
Her words gave Dr. Martin M.L.A.D. and him. No, and she got hope when Mom said it.
Their mother gave them hope. Their dad gave them skills and taught them lessons. Their mother gave them hope. What did she say that gave them hope that things would change? What did she say that gave ML and his siblings hope that things would change? Aaron.
She said.
Loudly.
She said that someday it would be better.
Good. She says people just don't understand that everyone in this is the same, but someday it will be different. Is it different now? In some ways. But is it the same now in some ways? It is. In some ways it's better, but in some ways it's not. So should we give up on since Dr. King died? Do we stop? No, we keep going, just like we talked about in religion. Jesus died, so can he be the one showing God's loving example anymore? No. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. died, so can he be the one spreading this news how everybody is equal and everybody should be treated equally? Can he still do it? So who has to do it now? Class? Us. We have to do it. Read that last little sentence. Mason, oops, loud and slow. It's important.
And when he was much older, my brother M.L. dreamed a dream that turned the world upside down.
So he made that decision when he was a kid, like a young teenager, maybe even younger. He was going to turn the world upside down. Did he do it? Was it easy for him? Not at all. He died because of it. But did it change the world? So can we see almost some similarities between what Jesus did and what Martin Luther King did? So Martin Luther King was a really good example of, we get to tie in religion. I always like when that happens. Martin Luther King was a really good example of what? Carla.
Jesus' merciful love.
Jesus' merciful love. Very good. Okay. We got to move because we have to go to music. I know we all have lots of good things to say, but we have to go on to music. So we need to figure out the author's purpose. Using these clues, what was the author's purpose? Using all of these clues. So first, tell me, was it to inform, to entertain, or to persuade? Lena.
To inform.
So tell me in a complete sentence.
The author's purpose was to inform.
The author's purpose is to inform, but we're not done, so don't put a period after inform. To inform us of what? Smith.
To inform us about Dr. Martin Luther King's life.
Okay, but specifically what part? Because we don't know about his whole life.
His childhood.
What about his childhood? Why did she write a story about his childhood? What happened during his childhood that was so important?
Segregation.
But what happened? What did he do as a child that was so important? Kingston? I can't hear you.
Made the decision
Very good. So the author's purpose is to inform us about what, Kingston? About Martin's decision, not only to stop racism, but what did he say he was going to do? Turn the world upside down. Which, do we actually turn it upside down? What are we trying to do when we say turn the world upside down? What's another idiom we can use? Change Martin's decision to change the world. That's an idiom because are we actually changing the whole world? Like, are we changing the land to water and the water to land or anything like that? Are we actually physically changing the world, the earth, the planet? No. So it's an idiom because we don't mean I'm going to change the world. Hey, I'm going to make all the water land and all the land water. But we're changing the minds of a massive group of people. Did he manage to do that? Has he managed to change everyone's mind? So we have to keep it going. Otherwise, will it ever change? Okay, so go ahead, leave that out. Open to the about the author and about the illustrator. When you get back from music, before we start lunch, you'll read about the author and the illustrator.